This is the zoning board for the town of Upton meeting for Wednesday, May 17th at 6:30 PM in the lower town hall. The general business and the applications for tonight will be Route 140 Realty Trust continuation for Governor's Landing and continuation of a public hearing on a comprehensive permit for 27 James Road. All that. Bob Fletchstone would like to talk about possibility of an lot. Want to do the up some meeting minutes for March 15th.
I'll move that we accept the minutes for March 15th. I second the motion.
Unanimous vote. Ted Briggs, aye.
Eric Russell, aye. Bill Andrews, aye.
Minutes for April 19th, 2023.
Move that we approve the minutes for April 19th. Bill Andrews seconds the motion.
Unanimous vote of the board. Ted Briggs, aye.
Eric Russell, aye. Bill Andrews, aye.
Let's do Mr. Fletcher first. Were you at to ask it?
Oh, good evening, everyone. My name is Bob Floodstrom. I live down on 220 Mechanic. I've been in town over 20 plus years. And I raised my boys here. One of them's came into the Eagle Scout. Built a bridge up on 7 Farms. And we're looking to put a detached in-law apartment next to my barn. Similar to the one on Williams Street. So it has been done in town. It's a small apartment that my wife and I would like to stay in town. So we can continue with our doctors, our friends. Watch our move, have a young couple move back into, my son move back into the house, have a young couple move back into Upton. Something that we all want.
Problem is that I agree that it was done before, but we have just done a couple recently where the person had to change it so that it was attached.
There's some, just as a, always want to be on,
Yeah.
upfront and honest, Bob and I know each other. We know him too from walks, Bob too, small town. One of the challenges is the site. You go 5 feet off the backyard, rots down 25 feet. If this was to be built today, it would not be, the house would not be allowed because it's within 200 feet of a brook. I did mention it to Mary. It is because the pre-existing non-conforming you would be allowed to do it. So in terms of, Bob, get your lot block plan.
A couple of them there.
Pre-existing non-conforming, you mean where there's one supposed to be. Well, the house and barn would never be allowed today because it's within 200 feet of a river. Yeah. So the trouble,
obviously, those are pre-existing non-conforming, but is he planning on building on the footprint of the barn, or is he I'm talking about a new structure?
Connected to the barn. Trouble is the river comes right next to the driveway. It goes off diagonally, so that stops it from being on this side. That stops the addition from being in the back. And on this side, right here, on this third side, is the septic system. He's boxed in. The only direction he can go is this. And because the river shoots off at this angle, the land that's available to build on is on this side of the barn. It's still connected to an existing building, but
Not the house.
not the house.
It is not, would it be expanding the footprint of the nonconformity within the barrier, the buffer to the river?
He can't go any closer to the river. They won't allow that. He can't get any closer than this back wall.
Would the expansion though be within it, just ignoring the barn and the house? Would the expansion be allowed today?
If it's a pre-existing building, yes.
Okay, but it's,
If there was no building on the lot, you would not be able to build on the lot.
But for conservation purposes or for zoning purposes?
Conservation,
Okay.
for conservation, not for zoning. For zoning, he's got
Okay.
a goal, but he's boxed in. He's got the river on the back, and I mean, it's a.
I mean, so
This is, by the way, this isn't a formal application.
No.
He just wants to know what you're going to do.
yeah, and I'm asking you the conservation pieces isn't in our jurisdiction.
Yeah.
If it were a zoning problem there, we can't approve an expansion of a non-conformity.
Could by special permit, that would be a separate special permit to this board if it were a zoning non-conformity that are expanding.
Yeah, in some circumstances, but yeah, so that's just something he has to deal with conservation. Yeah,
Yeah. But the challenge is, we know we have been at topographical, allowed exceptions and also for where septic systems is. It kind of boxes off this way. That's the only direction left. And there's currently a barn right there.
Yeah, because he's gonna have to hook up the new building to the existing system, which may have to be expanded.
Yeah, I would say yes. It'd be connected electrically, utilities wise, sewer, water to the.
Right, but I'm just saying, he may have to upgrade,
Absolutely. And that would.
depending on how
Board
many
of Health.
bedrooms you have now on your system,
that's a board of health issue.
Yeah.
Board of Health, yeah.
my other half.
But yeah, I recommend that you not go forward with engineering and stuff and pay for all that until he got a sense of how you guys felt about allowing that. I think that's just a prudent thing to do to ask you.
Well, I don't have a problem.
What's the proposed size?
Yeah, what's the size?
Under the 1,000.
And have you spoken to the neighbors?
Yes.
And no indication that they would oppose it?
No.
So I think what you're gonna need is a variance in addition to a special permit allows us, there's certain things we can approve under it, but the criteria are spelled out in the bylaw. And one of those is that it's attached to the house so that it looks like one structure. So if you're building a detached one, you're gonna need a variance in addition to a special permit. I don't have a problem with that as long as the neighbors don't.
But is it being attached to the barn or separate all this up?
Catch.
Attached to the barn? Oh,
Do we prohibit use variances in town? It's not something we looked into.
We don't permit use variances.
Okay.
So it has to be, we don't prohibit it, but it has to be specifically allowed in some bylaw.
Yes.
It's not.
And he'd be good for his side setbacks and back setbacks and all those too.
well, there again, as long as, it's being attached to another dwelling that's already there, so it's not like he's putting up a single building and come and use it as an in-law apartment.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem.
Yeah, if the neighbors don't have a problem with it, then, there you go.
So you can file your application.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
All right, the next one is Governor's Landing, 140 Realty Trust. Jeff, you here?
Yes, good evening. Thank you. You can hear me okay?
Yep.
All right, great. And thank you for letting me participate remotely. I have another meeting tonight, so there's no way I could do both without being able to do this. So I really appreciate it. So the last time we were in front of you was April 19th. And one of the trickier issues that we've been confronted with with respect to this development is the utility connection. And we talked about it before. And I think at the last meeting, what I explained to you was that my client at that time was hoping to have the peer review consultant evaluate the cross-country route that my client had originally proposed, because we wanted to get the boards to approve that route as a backup in the event that the town didn't complete the Milford Street project that it's trying to proceed with and is applying to get some grants for. So since that meeting, things have shifted. I've had discussions with Mike, Joe Layden, Dennis Westgate, Ty and Bond, the consultants for the town. And Dennis really emphasized that he's not going to support that cross-country route. So we shouldn't expect him or the peer review consultant to come in supporting that route right now if we were to chase down that feasibility evaluation. He also convinced me, as did Joe, that the town's committed to getting this project done, and it's working really hard right now with Ty and Bond to come up with a really solid application for the MassWorks grant. That application is going to be filed in June. We won't know the results of that application until October or November. But based on what appears to be momentum on that, I've sort of convinced my client to back off from trying to get any kind of backup approval for the cross-country route as part of these proceedings. We'd like to sort of drop that request, simplify our permit applications, and accept a condition that requires connecting to the Milford Street utilities once those are installed. The only caveat there is that, because there are uncertainties associated with that project, primarily the funding, my client's a little nervous about accepting a requirement in a permit condition that it tie into those utilities. It doesn't want to accept a condition like that and then somehow be accused later on of waiving any right to challenge that condition in the event that the town doesn't actually proceed with the project. So I've been working with Mike on some language that I'm hoping you would consider incorporating into a decision. And that's assuming that you're inclined to approve this project. But it's basically language that acknowledges my client's willingness to accept the condition that it be required to tie into the Milford Street utilities, so long as the town gets the money that it gets the grant that it's applying for and commits to proceeding with that project, but also acknowledging our position that if the town doesn't do that, we want to be able to come back to the planning board and request an amendment or modification to the special permit. And at that point, ask you and the town and the peer review consultant to go ahead with the review of the backup cross-country route and seek approval of that backup route at that point in time. We just don't want to be precluded based on some procedural matter from doing that in the event that this project doesn't happen. So I've drafted some language. I've sent it over to Mike. I don't know if you've shared this with the board yet, but it's basically language that we're asking you to just drop into your decision so that if we come back in November for an amendment, no one's surprised that it's happened, and no one's going to tell us that we can't do it because we accepted a condition without appealing it. I'm trying to set it up so we don't have to appeal that condition.
And Jeff, if I could jump in through the chair, and we don't, if the board was comfortable enough for taking a vote on this application tonight, I'm not suggesting that you are, but if you were, we can finalize that condition language after this meeting to get it to where we're more comfortable. I just want to emphasize that what Jeff was saying, this condition that he's laying out is basically it's an option that would be available anyway. It's just going through the practice of stating it explicitly on the decision document. They will always have the option to come back to the zoning board or the planning board to ask for an amendment to the special permit. A condition doesn't guarantee them that right. They're already guaranteed that right, that if they wanted to come back and amend a decision that they or amend a special permit, they have the option to do that through another formal public hearing, as Jeff was just saying. So his proposal to his client is to say, this is where you see like whereas, legal documents where you're just spelling out the findings. This is a condition that's almost a finding, honestly, right? Jeff,
I mean, that's right. It's more of a finding and just a statement in the decision that it's a statement reflecting our representation that we would accept that condition, but we want everyone to understand that if the project doesn't happen, we're going to be coming back to the board for an amendment, and we don't want to be precluded from doing that. That's it.
Now that I said that, now I'm thinking maybe it belongs in the findings and not the conditions. What do you think, Jeff?
Yes, I think actually the way I was contemplating it would be in the findings up front. Yep. But then possibly reiterated in the conditions where where the condition says we have to connect to the Milford Street utilities. I would also like that condition to just
Right.
acknowledge the applicant's reservation of rights or something like that, which is then addressed more fully in the findings. That's how I would propose handling it.
Okay,
Okay.
okay. I mean, regardless, it's, we're going through the practice of stating something explicitly because Jeff's trying to protect his client, worried to, go to an appeals process. He's trying to solidify rights here for his client. So that makes sense. But again, regardless, this is a process that would be available to anyone who's granted a special permit through either board. So it's just going through the practice of stating that explicitly. And then we'll be careful about crafting the language because obviously we don't want to guarantee anything on behalf of this board or the planning board. As far as, we're definitely pursuing the infrastructure, but we don't want to accidentally, through the course of providing this language, provide a way to automatically go for the cross-country route, which I don't think is the case, but we'll just, we'll be extra careful with the language that we're not accidentally providing that with to make sure we're being very clear as to what is being stated and what the intent is.
Right. And we're not, and I totally agree with that objective. We don't want to accidentally we don't want to make it sound like you're approving that backup right now. We know you're not. Dennis is very clear that right now his view is it's not a feasible, viable alternative. And, we might dispute that down the road, but we might never have to. If this project in Milford Street moves forward, we're all good. It's good for everybody. So, and just so you know, we're still in front of the Planning Board and the Conservation Commission. I think this issue or this sort of change in position by my client is going to simplify those proceedings. We've got a couple small sort of stormwater issues to work through with DGT, the peer review consultant, all related to the back end of the project, the senior housing portion of the project, which is in front of the Concom and the Planning Board. They don't pertain directly to the ZBA. So in my view, I don't want to push you if you're not comfortable voting on this tonight, but I think that we've addressed all the issues that pertain to the townhouse development. If the board's comfortable with it, we'd be excited to get a vote now. It would be something that we could then, the fact that we've received that vote is something we could drop into the MassWorks grant application. I think it actually might be helpful. But again, if you're not comfortable doing that tonight, we're happy to continue this hearing and you can take it up at your next meeting.
Jeff, at the last meeting, I think you said that the client would be in favor of putting the money that would be saved by not doing the back way into the sewer project. Was that true or?
That is true. And actually my client issued a letter today that was sent to Mike and Jill Layden to incorporate into the MassWorks grant application, documenting its commitment to contributing $735,000 towards the Milford Street utility project, which is basically based on the estimated cost of the cross-country route. So yeah, we've confirmed that in writing with the town.
Okay. Questions, guys?
My only question is a financial one in terms of there's a number of waivers that are being sought that save that money.
Right.
My question is in the negotiations with, I'm assuming the selectmen in terms of the price, are they thinking about, that part of the question too?
No, I mean, the offer from the applicant is based off of their engineers' cost estimates of what it would cost to construct the cross country route, and it doesn't take into account waivers through the planning board or the zoning board through the special permitting process. That'd be
when you narrow up streets, eliminate sidewalks.
Well, that's
that's
Jeff, what about the the 24 to 26 for the road and the division of the sidewalk, could that money be turned back into the sewer project?
I'm sorry, what money,
You're asking for a waiver to cut the streets down from 26 to 24 and the sidewalks from like 5 to 4 or whatever it was.
oh,
So what happens is that there's no benefit to the towns to have that done. So if you turn around in a savings, just knock it off, but say $100,000, could that money be turned back into the sewer fund?
I don't think my client's interested in that. I mean, we actually proposed those details, not so much as a cost saving thing, but primarily to reduce impervious surface out there so that we could more easily manage the stormwater issues associated with the project. I mean, we've been in discussions with town officials for 2-3+ years now on this contribution to the utility project. I don't think my client's going to raise its commitment to contribute more at this point in time.
And I love that critical thinking from the board, but I don't think that's something we could, it's certainly not a condition we could impose for this, if we were considering that.
Well, the problem is that the gain is to the developer, not to the town.
Sure.
So
I mean, I think that
just
these
like
waivers
honestly
are
think-
for, they do benefit the town. They benefit the residents. It makes for a better community with more open space, less impervious surface. I mean, it's actually a design element that we think the residents will benefit from, not just my client.
all right, guys, what's that?
So there was,
I'd like to see the draft decision before we vote on it.
well, I mean, you can, okay, yeah, sure.
I like that. Good suggestion. I mean, I'm in support of this thing. I don't want you to take that the wrong way, but.
Yeah, that's no problem. I
Wanna
think
make
it's
sure we have-
totally reasonable to want to see a draft before you vote. A lot of boards do it that way, and for a project that's been in front of you for so long, I think it's sensible. So you're not going to get any pushback from me on that. I think that's fine.
You wanna? No, we can do that. I can go through elements of it. I can send it out now. Or do you want to wait and get a draft, review it, and come back in June?
I think that probably makes more sense.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Bill,
Yeah, it's a lot of detail.
where do you
Sure.
stand, where do you guys stand on like the road and the sidewalk?
I mean,
What were the questions on the road sidewalk?
they're
Yeah,
They wanted to drop the size of the road from 26 foot to 24 foot.
sidewalk on one side, which planning board.
Yeah, but they were still cutting the size of the sidewalk.
Right, from 5 to 4.
Yeah.
4, you can walk on, I think, pretty reasonably. Planning board has consistently made it only on one side of the road instead of both.
Right.
So I'm not too concerned about that. You know, the road narrowing, I hate narrow.
I have a problem with that.
I'm just not a huge fan of narrow roads. Now, hopefully, if you get your letter, because you're gonna be.
Now rules are still the traffic and all that. They can see a little more cautious. The 4-foot sidewalk, most of the town would like to have a trail, so
Yes.
not a big deal.
Except though you got elderly people in part of it, so then they need the extra width on the side.
Yeah, it's true.
yeah, I think ADA requires that sidewalk, it's only 4 feet, it has to have wider sections every every couple hundred feet, so it's passing areas. Somebody in a wheelchair.
So, I was unaware of that.
Like a pulling off area? Yeah.
Yeah, just a wider area. I don't know the standard off the top of my head.
So it's going to be.
You can look at that, or I can look at that ahead of the next meeting.
Okay.
We could also add that as a condition. You know what I mean? We can add that specifically, but I would want to make sure, obviously, we're accurate on it as
Yeah.
well. So,
Yeah.
I wouldn't hold up an approval. You know what I mean? That's a good element to have for sure. But I wouldn't want to hold it up. because that is something we can easily put into a condition. I just want to make sure we're correct on it.
I'm seeing from Masco, they're saying 4 is nothing less than 40, so it does meet that's Masco standard.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, why don't you do a draft?
I just sent you out the draft, so you have it. I mean, you don't need to read it now. But I forwarded you Jeff's email to me today, which is comments and edits based on the draft that I did.
Oh, I found it right here.
And
If sidewalks are less than 60 inches, 5 feet, passing space must be constructed every 200 feet. These passing spaces, which could be a driveway or a wider section of concrete,
Okay.
need to be at least 60 inches on all sides. So there's lots of driveways. I mean, there's lots of driveways. That would cover that one.
Right. And I know early on there was a question about spacing between the buildings and whether these could be considered single dwelling units based on the fact that there's a common wall connecting the different units. Was that ever resolved?
We didn't get any response. We didn't get any comments from DGT or any town officials sort of questioning the style of the buildings. If you have questions about that though, or if you want us to review that with the building department, we can do that. These are units that Fafford's been building in Uxbridge, I know, because I've been working with them on these same types of units. But it hasn't been an issue that's been really raised here. Although I have some memory of discussing that, I think, in our initial presentation, but no one's ever really challenged it since then. If you want us to run that through the building department, we can do that. We have not talked. I haven't talked to them anyways, but I haven't gotten any comments.
I
Yep.
would want to know what they have to say about it, mostly because we want to make sure we're applying our bylaw consistently. So we want to know what our building inspector, how he interprets the bylaw in this context.
Yep, that's fair. Okay.
But it looks like we'll move forward in June and hopefully get to the point where we can get.
Before we do.
Yep.
Open space.
Yes.
And in my draft, which I just sent out, that's fine, I'm going to read off of it. And one of the conditions was that the open space remain available to both passive and recreational uses. And I just wanted the board to consider if there's anything that you would like to call out specifically for uses. And the reason why this comes to mind is because I was just going through the practice with Mary and my conservation agent. There was a issue regarding the preserve at Dean Pond, and there was interest of a property owner to utilize that the open space that's dedicated in that subdivision to access the state forest for equestrian use. And the way that the approvals were originally designed for that, it was unclear as to if we could even allow for that when we're writing up the deed for the dedication of the open space. I just kind of flagged that as an issue for consideration.
Yeah, because I mentioned about some kind of an open space for children to play
Yeah.
with a ball or whatever it was, so that they're not, have to try to find a place somewhere else.
Mm-hmm. About like community gardens, like as an allowable use, just like.
Yeah, a space where they can sign up for it.
Sure.
The one thing I don't like about including specific things, unless there's something that's going to be blocked out otherwise,
Yeah.
is sometimes it looks like an exclusive list. Shouldn't look like
Yeah.
you're
Okay.
narrowing it.
Well, that's fine too, if you just want to express all active uses, all open space type uses. I mean, we don't have a local definition that really spells it out easily. So that's why I'm throwing it out here. It's good that we're just having the discussion now anyway, because it's.
But see, the problem with like the condo park, open space is really defined on what you can do with it. That's why I was bringing up about some kind of a place for children to play.
Yeah.
Because I don't want them to come up down the road and the condo development board say, no, you can't do that. You know, because it's open space, it's for everybody, you know.
Can I just bring one thing to light that I just recall from doing the minutes?
Yeah.
And shut me down, out of turn. I did have comment at the last meeting that they were asking for a decision because the open space included wetlands and retaining wall areas.
Yep.
So if that's not approved, then there was kind of a stall on the project.
Yeah, that question last and the board didn't have much comments on it.
Yeah, if I remember right, the issue is, whether that's considered open space, and the bylaw is set up strangely, right? We have to,
It was set up,
we don't have to approve it, but we have to recommend.
it was, Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong, it was basically, it reflected back to the ability of the zoning board to approve it as presented. There was some sort of ability to ask planning board if they had any sort of input on it, and we brought it to planning board, and planning board didn't have much comment relative to that. Is that?
Yeah, the way the bylaw reads is, there's this open space requirement, and you're authorized to approve it unless it's deemed unsuitable by the planning board for reasons of excessive slope or poor drainage. So if they don't deem it unsuitable, if they don't take that affirmative action to deem it unsuitable, then it's just in your court, your normal special permit granting decision-making authority. And when we specifically brought this to a head with them, and they discussed it, and we bantered about it for a while, I made my arguments as to why I think it's totally suitable. I mean, the first part of this open space requirement talks about leaving natural areas, undisturbed, and a lot of our proposed open space is exactly that. But in any event, after discussing it, the planning board said, we're not going to say that it's suitable, and we're also not going to say it's unsuitable. We're deferring to the ZBA on this. It's a townhome development. They're the special permit granting authority. So they just left it alone. And I interpreted that as deciding not to affirmatively deem it unsuitable, and therefore it's up to you. As to
Right, if you had 99% of a parcel that was either wet or unsuitable, and you only had 1% that would be usable open space, yeah, I would think that would be a problem.
So it's basically however the zoning board wants to treat it now.
So how much of the space is kind of just going to be left in the natural condition versus how much is
Do
available?
you know how much of the space?
I don't have the plan in front of me. We don't have the proportions written out that way. Most of the open space is to the left of the townhomes, in the buffer zone and the wetland areas. There's a nature trail that's going to be constructed there that'll connect to the nature trail that runs through the senior housing community. So we're actually providing access to the sort of the edge of the natural areas, so that the beauty of the natural undisturbed areas are going to be something that people can enjoy. And then within the community, we've got stretches of what we're calling common open space, designated areas behind the townhome units. And, there may be one thing that you could think about doing in your condition is for the common open space areas that are, within the sort of the area, within the vicinity of the units, the homeowner documents shouldn't restrict those areas from being used for active recreational purposes. And like you said, some homeowners associations say basically no kids, no playing, no,
Right.
We don't want to hear any noise or whatever. But if you put a condition in there that requires the association to allow these sort of fun activities, then I think that would have value.
Some kind
I
of
would definitely
deed
want that.
restriction or something.
That's a good idea. And I like it. It's natural. Yeah, natural space. I think it's a good idea to preserve that. So I don't have any issue with that.
Okay, yeah, I definitely like the restriction on allowing kids to play and stuff. I can't stand when they have these HOAs that are restricted.
Well, yeah, because I've worked in a bunch of the Pappet-built condo developments, and you can't even breathe in the condo.
Yeah, and I hate that. Okay.
Okay.
And so
Chairman, do you want to,
continue it, and
I make a motion that we continue this matter to our, what's the June meeting date?
We'll make a request, I think,
Yeah.
from the applicants.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, I'd like to request a continuance to your next meeting. What is the date of that?
Amy?
June 21st, okay.
June 21st.
Italy.
Is that the next meeting?
Yeah,
Oh, that's right. Oh, I'm sorry. You only make, that's right, once a month, right? June
Always the
21.
21.
All right, we'll probably need that time to run this building unit configuration through the building department anyway, so that's totally fine. And I'll work with you, Michael, on a draft decision. We'll get that more complete so everyone's got something. Now, I would urge the board members, as you're thinking about this, if you've got thoughts for other conditions or language or anything, just send it over to Michael so he can fold it into the draft, and I'll work with him and we can discuss it and maybe conclude everything on the 21st. That sounds great.
Sounds good.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Is there a motion? Vote?
I make a motion to continue to the June meeting.
I'll second it.
Unanimous vote of the board, temporary.
Eric Russell, aye.
Bill Andrews, aye.
Okay, don't forget to send our letter.
Yep, I'll send in a request. Thank you all.
Thank
All right, good night.
Yep, good night.
Come through.
Oh, really?
Took like 5 minutes.
I don't know how Mr. Andrews feels,
Yeah.
but I have a problem with the 26-foot wide and 24-foot wide road myself.
Well, we can't discuss it now.
No, I know.
No,
I'm
okay,
just
yeah,
saying.
we have to discuss that in.
Yeah.
It's not my favorite. I think what I'm gonna do is go up to, isn't Shining Rock, and go up and measure that.
The other one is too.
Upton Ridge.
No, Cutler Street.
I'll go up there with a tape.
But what they did on that was they got them to sprinkle the buildings
Mhm.
and do something else in lieu of the road being 26 to 24.
Yeah,
Because it was a fire project.
I'd like to see.
All right, you guys are on your own for 27.
Oops. All right.
Is everyone signed in to the sign-on sheet that's here?
Okay, got activation. Yeah, I already saw that.
Yes, thank you. Let me make sure they all. Did everyone sign in to the sign-up sheet? Thank you. Okay, so 27 James Road.
I just came up my son.
Various emails.
Various emails, the draft decision, that's what I'm looking for. Draft decision, that's what I'm looking for.
We have,
So, Run the strikeouts.
oh, those are all the draft.
Those are all the draft positions, yes.
You might mute your mic unless it's on, because double feedback. Okay, all right, gentlemen, sir. I'm assuming you worked with Michael on some of these.
Yep, and you have,
Along with our attorney.
yep, so you have a couple of documents and you had,
State text.
you have Stantec's review, you have,
Yep.
a butter's attorney
I saw that.
representation, and then with the red marks, Eden's notes on those as well. So that's where we are. I do have a full draft decision. But we can, should you vote tonight, which I think we will, because I think
Yeah,
that's.
we
what
have to,
we're- yeah.
deadline's tonight.
Yeah, we vote tonight and then whatever that vote is, we'll have 40 days to finalize, 40 days to finalize that decision document. So we can take another look at the specifics of the language within that document. next.
Okay.
But I think the most important thing probably tonight is addressing the conditions. What do you think?
Yeah, yeah, and I saw that, your work. Thank you for all the effort you put in. I did see the abutters, concerns.
I borrowed a lot of, there was obviously, I looked at a lot of different 40B decisions, some fairly much larger developments, but I thought I picked out from ones that I thought were fair, sort of reiterations of things that are typical. It seems like the applicant was receptive to mostly all of them. He provided, there were some language changes to some of them, but it didn't change. It wasn't substantive changes.
No, that was more wordsmith.
Yeah, which is acceptable to me. And then there were some, obviously you saw the, from Don O'Neill, those proposed conditions or the proposed alterations to my conditions, as well as, I think it was just two additional offered conditions. Real quick, I'll just address if through the chair, to the board. Suggested condition number 1 from the abutters. I spoke with Dennis, our DPW director, today. He assured me that if in order to get a certificate of occupancy for a brand new house, which is relative to a driveway permit, they look at obviously the driveway apron to make sure that that's all set. But he also looks to make sure that there wasn't substantial damage to the road as a result of that construction. He assured me that it's part of their policy to not, sign off on a certification unless something is accounted for. And he told me that he's accustomed to handling that with developers near constantly. So that's where we are with that. I think that is that's covered. That suggested condition is covered in the way that DPW handles those things typically.
Yeah.
What condition is that?
The number 1 on.
Can you read that?
Sure. That a bond be posted by the applicant prior to construction to cover the cost of any damage caused to James Road through construction activity that is not otherwise repaired by the applicant upon the completion of construction on sites.
Okay. Yeah. I made one such payment rather recently. It's a
There you go.
$3,000 payment. I get it back when I get my thing done.
I just make a general comment to the list from the abutters attorney.
Mhm.
I think the one general comment
Mhm.
is we don't want to be treated any differently than any other contract.
Yeah.
So a couple of those conditions were above and beyond what
Yeah.
other contractors would have to do for the similar development. So,
Yeah, and I'm in the middle of building something and an 8 a.m. start would drive me insane.
yeah,
The town already has a whole set of rules on that. We don't need to reinvent. I personally don't think we need to reinvent all the rules that are already existing. Like
In terms of hours.
in hours of work and days like
Yeah.
you,
Do anything different.
yeah, I mean, it's not fair because it's everyone in the town should play by the same rules. And I certainly read it with, I understand the concerns. I know for myself, I try not to flip on that air compressor until at least 7. But landscapers with their leaf blowers, they're completely allowed
So
to
you're
use.
saying that's not acceptable?
I'm going to follow the rules that
Okay.
the town already
Yeah.
has. It's the town already has those rules. We don't make a new set for every individual person. I mean, it's Gloria throwing everything in the kitchen sink. If someone just damages your well, they're already liable. You don't need to say that. The state law is already pretty.
Yeah, I think that one's just outside of our jurisdiction. We can't expand liability on legal theories that where liability wouldn't exist. That's just something we can't do. The ones I am curious about are the first one, performing a testing prior to commencement of construction. That'll be it before issuance of construction permit. Is that standard to do the
No.
infiltration testing? What is that normally done?
Well, you have when you dig the pits, but what kind of makes it mute is that the infiltration pits are going to be in filled areas. You're controlling the gravel that goes in there. That was the question I had last time. Because if you dig it and it's ledge, you know, you're in trouble. But his response to that was
They have to come back.
they're already going to do it in areas that they're filling in. They can control that. But I would have the condition is Stantec has identified one single incident, and the condition I'm going to throw in there, and I don't think it's a hard one to me, is that you modify your design so that you don't ever, so that you're not sending any extra water to anybody else. It's
Acceptable.
it's only one small, you covered almost everything, but that was the only red flag. Even if it's a very small one, I think that you can modify the design to eliminate that one. And that's an easy one to do.
And that was captured in,
Yes, it was. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's acceptable to us. And
Yeah.
we'll Obviously do that.
And
Suggestion to prohibit,
Can we hold on that point, seeing we're still on the, on the
you know
one
what?
point as far as the,
this is going to sound, there's a time that I allow visitors comment. Right now, we have a little bit of work to do.
yes, but it's on the subject that we're talking about. Okay, I'll wait, as long as I have my time to talk, okay? Because I don't accept that. It was, the provision was
We're
put
not
in there,
discussing that right now.
that
We're not discussing that right now.
no permit
We're
would be issued.
We're not
until
discussing,
these-
we're not discussing
Okay,
that,
all right.
okay? Sorry, continue on, sir.
restrictions essentially on anything that would create additional runoff, additional patios, swimming pools, that sort of stuff. I mean, I understand their concern there, but that would change the impervious areas. That would change the calculations that we received viewed. What do you think of that?
Just broadly, I think it's too broad. I think if there's a condition that if the homeowners association wants to individual wants to add a pool or something like that, they have to provide additional information showing it does not affect the original calculations or does not affect or detrimental to the calculation. Something like adding, like, we can't just do it, we're gonna show that it works. So if you want to send it has sent to the Centec,
Yeah, there's a lot of positive, like instead of a solid concrete skirt, you just use a permeable concrete block.
right.
They're very, very common, very firm.
If they want to add it there, I think we could do something with that condition that has to be reviewed by the town or the town. Peer review.
Yeah. Or even the building departments, I mean,
Yeah.
they're smart, they're smart guys and ladies.
I don't.
Yeah, but you know, you know, if you're increasing the impervious area, I understand it's a legitimate concern. And
I think it's reasonable to ask them to come back rather than just prohibiting.
I would concur with that.
You know, what they're gonna do.
Yeah.
That's why I rather get permission first than
Yeah.
the other way around and do it.
There'd
And
be a
that's
building permit anyways, there'd be a building permit anyways.
Yes.
Right, you know, and that's part of the discussion we always have.
In terms of blasting,
24 hours notice, you know what, that's legit.
I think that's fair. Is that consistent with what we normally do? I mean, sure. we have to-
I was in a butter to a 30 home development
Yeah.
off of Plain Street.
Yeah.
And we were notified 24 hours.
There you go. So
I think that's the state law, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
We gotta follow the state law, whatever it is.
Okay. I think that was completely reasonable. And even if it wasn't, I would say
Oh, yeah.
that one's it's gonna scare the shit out of me. Please give me a little notice.
It's 300 feet from the gas line. I don't know.
Last thing's not the preferred.
Yeah, they actually got a really couple of some. You're unfortunately gonna end up with some of that. That's a tough.
Yeah.
You've got some tough stuff there. But that new the new hydraulic system is a lot better than listening to that pounding all day for 6 months. But anyways,
there was a question about bi-weekly in it, and I was intended to be every 2 weeks.
Okay.
So
This
for
is
11. And then
this is the draft conditions.
Oh, sorry, yeah, let me look back.
Yeah, bi-weekly and biannual. Ambiguous. You don't have to do that.
I just want to say twice a month. That's fine.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
Number 12, stockpile earth. If they end up in a lot of blasting, they sometimes bring in those earth crunchers that grind it up to a small rock. They did a huge amount off of West River Street.
Okay.
We may want to. I mean, it's a good way to deal with ledge.
Mm-hmm.
It's an amazing machine. But I don't know if this would stop that from being used.
No, I don't think so. I'm gonna do it again.
As no earth processing shall occur on the property unless such earth products are to be combined and or mixed for use on the property.
Yeah, so you can't mix up and take it out of there.
So if you've got a big chunk of rock and you need to get rid of it, but
I think that's more intended to capture that, it doesn't become a quick commercial venture. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Which sometimes-
Yeah, it sounds like it's to prevent trucking off site, but I don't think that we have enough excess fill here that should be an issue.
because I know my little lot, 33 triax loads off for that tiny little lot, of which the town got like 6 or 7 topsoils, so they were heavy. But the rest, I mean, it just.
We can restructure that so it's a little bit more clear that it's the intent of it is to, that you're not going to create a saleable product.
All right, so
As a result of that, so obviously you want to allow for the construction to do what it needs to do in order to do what was approved, without obviously what we're just talking about.
Like I said, this is just delete that line and then but put in this is not to become like a commercial gravel pit.
Yeah, you probably could say something like, no material could be taken off that would be for commercial use.
There you go. Yeah. Something like that. I mean, I totally that had an issue when they went not that
Well, it says or removed from the property upon completion of the construction of road and infrastructure, so we could just change that last part to include construction of the lots.
as long as it allows at some point, sometimes the amount of dirt you have never exactly equals what you want to have. You either to bring some in or you got to get rid of a little.
Yeah.
I mean, it's never exact.
Okay.
The concept is fine with us, so whatever wording.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, of course, it's going to be licensed plastic. Yeah. Well, how do you feel with these? We've had this conditional.
Yep.
I'm happy with these, with the addition of your condition about the runoff.
Yeah.
Okay, and once we've discussed the abutters have it.
24-hour notice.
24-hour notice, and if any of the owners want to put in another impervious area, they have to come back to us.
Okay. Okay. Gentlemen, sir,
Yes.
you've heard our discussion.
Yes.
You want, you're talking about the document of conditions.
Yes.
Okay. What would you like to add?
So I want to address the condition of the test pits.
Mhm.
The test pits, Mr. Antonellis, I believe, was that, we wanted those, and you mentioned this 2 or 3 meetings ago, you as the developer, that have you done any perking up there to see how these test pits are gonna handle that water that's coming off the roof? And they went back and nothing has become of that. So basically what I'm basically asking is what Mr. Antonellis put in there was that these test pits be perked first to see where that water is going to go, to see if they'll even work before construction. Because under construction,
All right. Okay.
and can I please finish? Under construction, what are you gonna do at that point? Plus, Stantec's new report, I'm sure you've read that. He's saying in that report that storms over the next 10 to 20 years, he didn't even include the 100-year storm, over the next 10 to 20 years, the amount of water, there is water that's going to be leaving that property 3 times more. I see a 0.04 before and I see a 0.11 now. That's 300%. And please, can I finish, sir?
No.
Please, let me finish. I was quiet and I just want to finish my
But I
statement.
want you to make, you said something that I don't believe is correct.
Okay.
You said that it wasn't addressed. My concern was where the water was going to be in the infiltration, it could potentially be ledge. That's why
Yes.
it's perked.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
My-
And it is
that concern
Yes.
was alleviated because of the topography. His answer to my question is that where they're going to put the infiltration units are in filled earth.
They don't know where they're putting them yet, sir.
But by doing it in filled earth, you actually control what's in there better than if you go with just a natural, whatever
Filled
happens.
earth meaning they're gonna import,
It means like, for example, if you're, say you.
like building a raised system? Is that-
Let's see.
Let me
You
understand.
have ups and downs in your topography.
But in this, it's not, it's straight down.
Okay, you're gonna be filling things in so that you get level building areas. Okay? By utilizing filled earth, so you're putting, say, dryer.
I wish this board could come and see this property. To see what's all,
I haven't seen the property.
and not from my property, you haven't seen it.
But if you're not building a house crooked. You're not building a house at an angle. Okay, it doesn't sit on a mound like that. You basically are gonna have to level it up and build your house. I mean, I'm being a little simplistic here, but that's basically what you're doing. This land under here, you get to control. You can control that, and if you're gonna be doing infiltration units of some form, you pick materials that will be excellent for infiltration. It could be 3/4 stone is a very common, 1.5 stone is another one that's common. If you want real volume, you can even use larger grade stones. But Mike, the concern was answered for me, and I don't have that concern because when I brought it up, he explained it to me. I got it. Okay. Now, going past that one, what I do understand, you're concerned about water coming into your property. I put a condition in here that no additional water is going onto your property.
Right now, there is though, from what Stantec said, they have to go back and
That's why
revisit
he
this.
has to redo it. And that was the first thing I just asked him, and he said he didn't have a problem with
He
it.
has to redo that, but why not have those test pits perked to see if it can even be done? It's solid ledge coming down there. I don't think that lot 2 is a buildable lot.
He would like to.
As part of the process, this is preliminary approval for the comprehensive permit. It basically gives you the right to move forward to develop this property with conditions. This does not give us the right to get a building permit. These conditions have to be addressed before we go and pull a building permit. If any of these conditions we cannot meet, we have to come in front of the board to address what we cannot meet, and the board has the right to either say yes or no. For example, the test pits be performed within the footprint of each proposed subsurface filtration system to verify soil texture, refusal, and others of seasonal high groundwater. We could add, prior to receiving the building permits.
That's what Mr. Antonellis had in there,
Right.
right, sir? That you had prior to the building permit.
For the.
It was in blue
test
lettering
pits.
in your,
It's number one, I think.
Number one is that the test pits be performed within the footprint of each proposed subsurface infiltration system to verify soil texture, refusal, and or that's probably supposed to be a different word, and or seasonal high groundwater.
prior to a building permit being issued, you had.
That was included in from your attorney, Tom.
And you're saying that is,
That's acceptable.
that's acceptable. So that,
Well, this,
that's my.
all this is before the building permit. That's what we're trying to tell you. I'm not taking your concerns lightly. All I'm saying is this is only to get us to the next step, to stop performing these tests as we have designed it. If anything comes out of that, that is not so correct, we then have to come back to the topic.
Again, so to move past that, Attorney O'Neill had presented an amendment to my proposed condition. And that was acceptable as written to the applicant. So I was.
That makes it, just to be clear, it says prior to commencement of construction. Prior to commencement of work on said structures rather than prior to building permit.
Sure.
Yes, and I was like.
Either way, it's fine.
It's fine, okay, then it's.
All right, so we found a middle ground. All right, I want to give other people an opportunity.
I just want to make sure I understood when you were talking about the building hours,
Yes,
that we're talking 7 to 7.
the town already has code on it.
That's what I'm asking. Is, well, I don't know what the
Generally-
town codes
I
are.
believe it is
7 to 7.
Yeah.
And then on the weekends, 8 to 7.
That's town.
8 to 5, actually.
With all the elderly people that live around.
That's been the town rules for,
Okay,
since they've had rules.
all right. My other question was the parking. Where are all these workers gonna park?
They addressed them in the.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
They have addressed them in the
I'm
condition.
sorry, I didn't,
All
I
right.
missed it.
So,
Where they were gonna be parking.
What are they doing?
Um,
Because there's no room on the road, as we know.
Before.
yeah, so let's read it down here.
That's what I've been asking.
Yeah, and I mean, the reality of it is, and it doesn't matter where you are in this town, when you bring an excavator in, I shut down School Street for 5 minutes. I did. Absolutely. We notified the police, told them anytime, it's a low is a big piece of equipment. It happens, but it's it's no different for your neighborhood than it is for others. It's the same.
But School Street, if I understand right, has 2 different ways out. They're not a dead
Yeah,
end.
they're not gonna block you. They can't block it, make it so.
Well,
far.
that's what I need to make sure about, is that I'm not blocked in.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
understand,
they have no-
I totally understood when you said you were bringing in big equipment, there would be a police officer or some sort of a detail to make us, allow us to get by.
That's a suggestion by your attorney,
Okay,
and that's not.
well, I know that road after the trees came down,
Yeah.
we could not get by until there was a detail there, and I'm just very fearful of being stuck.
We have
There.
the
That's
condition.
my
The
scare.
condition, you said you didn't know which one it was. The condition by the town, the applicant shall provide at least 24 hours notice to all owners of land with frontage and access along James when there is to be an expected interruption in traffic for any construction related activities.
Okay.
We don't know what they are right now, so we can't
Yeah.
list
That
everything.
I understand, I just want to make
Yeah,
sure
that's Jim.
I can get out being,
Yeah.
at the end of the road, there's no way out.
Legitimate concern, and believe me, the fire department would be absolutely all over if you shut off the traffic. Yeah, you can't.
And that was put in there as a result of previous conversation.
Which is, I mean,
Yeah, just wanted to make sure you
Absolutely.
understood what was being said.
all right. I think we've gone through this 3 ways from Sunday. How are you feeling?
I'm uncomfortable with the conditions that.
I'm directly across the street
Yes,
from this property.
yes.
Can you state your name, please?
30 James Road, Phyllis Conlon.
Thank you.
I'm concerned about blasting, for one thing. My house is 220 some years old, 1796.
Mhm.
That's when it was built. And I'm afraid there probably will be some damage in the house from it, the blasting.
I mean, if we have to follow state laws.
If you follow basically state law, when they blasted up behind me, even when they did the road in front of me, they came in, they took a look at what was there already.
You're gonna do a survey pre and
Pre and post to make sure they don't, and if they do damage something, they have to fix it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the state law. So that gives you some protection there.
Absolutely.
So, and just to, for explicitly, number 13 of the proposed conditions, and then the proposed
Yeah.
add-on from Attorney O'Neill. A licensed blasting professional shall do any necessary blasting on the property after proper pre-blast inspections have been conducted and all required permits have been obtained from the Upton Fire Department.
Yeah.
Any and all blasting shall be done in compliance with, and then there's a chapter and verse that from MGL that dictates how that is governed. And then the amendment from Attorney O'Neill was that 24-hour notice be provided to the neighbors.
Very reasonable. The other thing, just so you know, in terms of the fire department, they don't allow blasting unless one of their guys are on site, and usually it's the chief. Because they shut down the guy on the top of the hill behind me on the blast. He didn't want to wait, and it was like, oh, you don't want to wait, shut down. But legitimate concern, and thank you for bringing it.
Yeah.
Okay, Bob, how are you feeling?
I have a question regarding
yes.
noise levels.
Yes,
You had mentioned something about setting up sensors and monitoring that so it doesn't exceed the state standard.
that's
What,
beyond what the town has for expectations for building projects.
okay, but what's acceptable for the state from the Board of Health?
I don't look at Board of Health standards, but
The state board does not.
But we don't require any other builder in the entire.
I know, but you mentioned at a prior meeting that they would set up meters if sound was an issue.
I don't not recall that. But
It was brought up before and you did address it. You suggested setting up meters to monitor.
I do not recall that. You know, I'm just we're gonna have them play by the same rules that everybody else plays by.
But I'm living across the street from it.
Yes.
And if I can't have just a normal day in my home because of the levels of noise that are excessive,
We have not outlawed construction in the town of Upton. That's not the rule of this board. People generally are reasonable. They're building all over this town. Because every single day there's building going on somewhere in this town.
oh, absolutely, it's all over the state.
But we're not making a whole different set of rules for this one project compared to all the other projects that we're involved in.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same rules.
But are they
For-
densely populated? Are they all in as close proximity as we are up on James Road?
Think of when they built,
I
yeah,
don't know.
think when they built the condo and the apartment building next to the hat factory. That neighborhood, there's not even 30 foot between the buildings down there. It's just, guys, it's gotta be the same rules for everybody. Can you imagine if you went to live your life and your neighbor had one set of rules, and you had a different set of rules, and the neighbor on the other side got away with stuff that you couldn't? It's gotta be the same rules for everybody. It's the only reasonable way to run it. We've included extra, and I compliment you on accepting some of these additional conditions. And I compliment you guys for bringing your concerns forward and getting those added. But generally, we're not changing the rule book for any one development. All right.
Doesn't go on forever. Construction gets done and then it's over. So you gotta remember that. It's not happening 7 days a week for eternity.
Yeah, it gets very expensive for 1 year months. All right. Want to make a motion?
Can you explain the protocol of what's gonna happen? Our attorney isn't here, so he should be, but he's not. But just so I understand, what is gonna happen tonight And then as these provisions kick in, will it go back to Stan Tech? And then Stan Tech will reevaluate these test holes? I mean, what is going to happen? When do we get information on
What's
this?
gonna happen is we're gonna make a thing to close the close the public hearing. Okay, and then we have 60 days, 40 days, we have 40 days to basically come up with our decision. So by our next meeting, we'll do our full decision. But we are actually 1 day over clock for closing the hearing. But so we'll, primarily, because he's a great guy, we'll add what small conditions are in here. Stan Tech responded to their stormwater, and then they responded to Stan Tech again, and then Stan Tech responded yet again. So we're on round, it's already gone back and forth several times.
And Stan Tech will evaluate again and come back
Can I
again?
answer that? Would you mind? Sure. Because, yes, we, as part of the requirements here, once we submit for building permits, they do another peer review to make sure that we've met every one of these conditions in the permit and every other conditions that's in the permit that doesn't relate to construction. And then the building inspector, along with the peer review, will look at documents and make sure they meet the conditions. And if we, in between this time, because now we're developing final engineering architectural plans, during that period, if anything changes, we've got to come back to the board and ask permission. So if we decide to move one drainage culvert from here to here, even 2 feet, we've got to come back and let the town decide if that's a major change or a minor change.
Prior to the building permit.
Right, this is just the beginning.
Okay.
And
There's no building permits.
the other thing you're gonna like, and I'm talking to the building department, because I'm building something myself, is the site visits. Steve's probably been out to my site 3-4 times. Marcella from Conservation has been out to my site to keep an eye on it. Trying to think, I think Pat stopped by, but that was more of a social call. So, I mean, even during construction, the building department comes out quite frequently. And if they like what they're seeing, they tend to be out there less. If they don't like what they're seeing, they're out a lot.
And to address John's comment specifically, so we can, and I would suggest and ask of the applicant that as an added condition, if it's okay, that the necessary funds provided into the, not knowing off the top of my head what the escrow account is currently, necessary funds be added into the escrow account to allow for Stan Tech to review the revised stormwater calculations when they come in, the revised stormwater calculations being a part of the it's accepted conditions from the applicant.
If you just make it a condition that at the time of our submission for the building permit and the board, because we have to come back to the board with the plans. We don't just go to the building yet. Building fix. We have to come back and basically get them to agree that we've met all these conditions.
Yep.
And will we be here at that time too? Will that meeting be open to us? As this proceeds?
Every meeting.
So we will continue to get the information that we've been getting on Stan Tech's report as we've been getting them up to date.
Yeah, we are closing, and I gotta act on his motion. My apologies for not doing that. But we never have a closed door meeting. We don't have the state, it's not even legal. Anything decided in a closed door meeting, be immediately thrown out. You can never do a full that closed door. You can do executive session, but we've got to support public hearing. We never.
No,
I don't think I've ever even heard of one.
I don't think it's
executive session litigation. Okay, anyway, fine. Your motion again, ours. But it's just to close it, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I move that we close the public hearing on the application for a comprehensive permit for 27 James Street.
Second.
And I make it unanimous. Bill Andrews, aye.
Eric Russell, aye.
You have to get, if you can have this for next, get it out to us ahead of time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then, if you want, we can even post it. Can we post something like that on?
Yeah,
Yeah,
But
as long as it has to be voted on.
that's a draft.
you need to vote on the decision, but correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure you need to vote on the application tonight as well.
Oh,
We can-
the application.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I would suggest you make a motion in the affirmative and however the votes lie, but make it an affirmative just because that's always the easiest to account for. My suggestion is that the board,
With these conditions that was mentioned.
with the conditions as discussed and as presented.
Okay.
All right, so I move that we approve the application for permit at 27 James Street, subject to the conditions that the board has discussed tonight and as presented.
Correct at the road,
What's that?
correct at the road, not street.
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
thank you.
Oh,
James Road, thank you. Yeah.
Second the motion.
thank you, unanimous. Bill Leader's aye.
Eric Russell, aye.
Bob Hughes, aye.
Then next meeting, you'll all get final. I'll send out the draft decision. And we will go through the process of, I mean, you will already have read through it, but we will iron out the details as far as the formal, and then we can endorse it.
And that's a public meeting
Yeah.
that we will be at.
Yeah.
And if we don't agree to that at that point, what time limit will we have to appeal that?
20 days after that
After that
Documents.
meeting for 40 days?
after that document is recorded with the clerk's office.
But I also want to thank you guys.
Probably.
And you'll get a copy.
This list of conditions
Yeah, you get notice of the
is
decision.
big,
As
as
a lot.
robust,
Okay.
if it wasn't for your input. Yeah. So I want to thank you for that.
But I'm just saying, the reason for the list of
Conditions.
conditions.
So thank you. Do we have other business before us tonight? That's it.
A motion to conclude the
Thank you,
meeting.
folks.
Thank you, gentlemen.
No motion to conclude the meeting, please.
Meeting.
Second, Mr. Smith.
Unanimous, Bill Leader's aye.
Russell, aye.
I think that's fine.
No, I just, I understand your concern.
Thank you, guys. Very, very patient. Very, very patient.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.